Again, we have with us Jim Thomas. He comes to us from Grant County, better known as Dry Ridge, Kentucky. I always wondered how the Dry Ridge came about, but I became very familiar with that right after college when I moved one county over. But we were able to talk, and several people he knew, or he knows that I knew in my past. It's good to have him here. He was a principal, assistant principal in the Fayette County school system for several years, and he is a member of the Grant County Gideon, and he's going to come and speak to us today. May the Lord bless you.
Thank you, Brother Ron. I tell people when I do a presentation, if I can make it up the steps to the pulpit, I don't drop anything or I don't trip, it's going to be okay. We're off to a good start. Again, I'm very happy to be here. Been doing this for a number of years, and I will tell you right up front, I don't do them the same way that you might be accustomed to hearing a Gideon presentation. For example, I'm going to have us think about some things this morning, so I brought my thinking cap. Thinking cap goes back to my days as a principal, and particularly at the middle school age, I often had students in my office more than I was. And oftentimes it was a result of they just didn't think. So I would wear the hat, and it's very interesting. The first time somebody would see me wearing the hat, they would look at me and then they'd start to say, "Mr. Thomas, what?" And I would stop. And I would say, "It's working, isn't it?" And they'd look at me and they'd go, "Oh." And it's working this morning. As I can tell, several of you have already thought to yourself, why is a Gideon speaker wearing a baseball cap? Well, I'm going to take it off. Also helps I don't have any hair. So I'll lay it there. But we will think about a lot of things today. First thing I want us to think about, 10 miles. We're at 22 Franklin Avenue. Where would 10 miles be from here? Where would 10 miles be from your house, from your home? 10 miles. Okay, everybody kind of got an idea? 10 miles? Okay, take the 10 miles and put it on the back burner. I'm going to come back to that. When I come back to that, I'm going to make a Gideon connection with this. So I'll make my Gideon connection story. I'll do it in a few minutes. Before I became a principal, I did actually teach for a few years. And I taught history, among other things. Thought I might share a little bit this morning about the history of Gideons. Anybody know when Gideon started? Good thing I wouldn't give it a test, wasn't it? Y'all didn't give it to me. I wouldn't give it. Gideons began in 1898. I never can remember, so I had to write it down. In Muskogee, Wisconsin. Most people know Gideon started in Wisconsin. That's really all they know. There was a business conference and the Grand Hotel wanted very much to have that conference come and meet there at the hotel. So they had somebody, the manager I would assume. Again, we're dealing with 1898. Didn't have cell phones and cars, but he got on a horse and they rode out and they met with the people who were planning this business conference And the hotel manager said, we're going to make you the best rate. You're not going to beat our prices. We'll put you there for the night, and you will love it. And he said, do you have any idea how many might be attending? And the guy gave him a figure, and the manager said, great. We have space. We can put everybody who attends the convention, conference, whatever you want to call it, in their own room. Nobody will have to double up. Nobody will have a roommate. But the hotel manager said, I would ask one thing. About a week or 10 days before the conference, either send me a telegraph or have somebody ride their horse over here and tell me as close as you can. How many are going to be here? And they did. And when they got that number, they still had enough rooms available. So hey, we're good to go. Then the businessmen started arriving. And they had set up the tables for the food and all that. One of the workers came in to the manager and said, boss, I think we got a problem. And the boss said, what's going on? He said, come and look at this. And there were way more people than they were expecting. So the hotel manager got together with the same gentleman and he said, the number you gave us isn't what I see here. You've got more people here. And the manager said, I'm willing to do this. We'll continue, we'll chop the rate even lower, but we're going to have to double it. I can't put everybody, we simply don't have that many rooms. So they took the guest sign-in sheet and just started matching people up. Two gentlemen, Samuel Hill and John Nicholson, ended up having to share a room. They talked business and what each one of them did, just got to know each other. And it came time to turn in for the evening, and one of them said, you know, if I was home right now, about this time, I usually get out the Bible and read a few scriptures before I go to bed. The other guy said, well, that's interesting. My wife and I do the same thing. Did you bring your Bible? No, I kind of forgot. I didn't pack it. The other guy said, I didn't either. So neither one of them had their Bible with them. They finished their conference, said goodbye to each other. A year later, in 1899, they met again, Mr. Nicholson and Mr. Hill. They hadn't seen each other for a year. Sam said, John, you remember if we didn't have a Bible? You know, I think about that every now and then. Both of them agreed. We need to do something about it. Now, that's basically where the idea came from. They started just buying testaments, maybe about this size, and just handed them out. Anytime there was a business gathering, they would hand out Bibles. In 1908, they ran into a guy named William Knights. He ran into him when they were out passing out Bibles. He said, what are you guys doing? And they told him, and he said, I like that. I'd like to join you. So then it went from 2 to 3. Now, Mr. Knights came up with the idea, okay, we can do this. We can keep handing out Bibles. I got an idea how we can expand, make it bigger. And so he's given credit for coming up with the idea to place testaments like this in hotel rooms, hospitals, doctors' offices, the places that we still find them today. So it went from 2 to 3. And the idea went from passing out scriptures to placing scriptures in places where people were quite likely to find themselves needing to feel the comfort, to feel the Spirit of the Lord by reading the text, reading the Testament. That's how it began. If you take 1898. That's 120 some years. So we've been around a while. Last year, around the world, Gideon has distributed just under 82 million Testaments.
Praise the Lord.
In 2016, which isn't that far back, Gideon's distributed 2 billion Testaments. Folks, that's a lot of Bible.
Praise the Lord.
2 billion Testaments. So we've made quite a jump from 3 guys in Wisconsin to what we're able to do today. Now, when Mr. Brights, Mr. Brights decided or proposed the idea to the other 2 that we expand, they began to do that. Then, after a year or 2 of doing that, all 3 of them came to the conclusion, if we're going to make this work, we got to have some help. We can't do this ourselves. We know it's working here in our own community. Why wouldn't it work in other communities, in other places? But the 3 of us can't do that. So they began, who could we find to be our partner? We need a partner. I'll go back to my teaching days. Suppose I gave you a 1-question test. 1 question. What do Gideons do? What do Gideons do? Now, if I give you that as a test, all of you would pass. Everybody would pass. As long as you would put in your answer something about testaments and Bibles, that's all we do. Now, suppose I was sneaky and put part B, or part 2 of the question. We know what Gideons do. Why do they do that? Why do Gideons do what they do? What is our ultimate goal? What are we after? We're looking for the means by which we can get God's holy word into the hands of those who haven't ever read about Jesus. I've never heard about Jesus. That's our goal. Suppose you ask me, Jim, what do churches do? First of all, I complain because I got a harder question than you did. I could take my pen and start writing, and it would be a long list of what churches do. You have services, you have outreach ministries, youth ministries, music ministries, different types of programs to help those who are less fortunate. The list goes on and on. Why do congregations do that? So people will come to know the Lord. So the 3 of them realized this has potential. So they met with local leaders there in Wisconsin, and the churches agreed to a partnership. And that partnership has gone on for over, I think the partnership is actually credited with 1908. So it's been going on for well over 100 years. That's a long time for a partnership to last and to remain strong. Now, I'll share some numbers with you, but I have no idea how many of these I've done over the years. But I do know that I've never presented numbers without first assuring the congregation that we're very proud of our numbers. Don't misunderstand me. to distribute 2 billion Testaments and get 80 million or so a year. We're very proud of that. But the numbers that we share are never meant to be boastful or bragging. Our numbers do 3 things. First, and it will always be first, our numbers clearly show how generously, graciously, and consistently God has blessed the work of Gideon for 120 years. Very much like a verse from Luke, that which is impossible with man is possible with God. Our numbers also show, as I've alluded to earlier, how critically important the partnership with congregations has been and will always be. We couldn't do this without the partnership of churches. Thirdly, it shows the dedication and hard work of Gideon's and auxiliary members around the world. It wouldn't happen without those things. We are now able to distribute testaments in 200 countries, islands, territories, and possessions.
Praise the Lord.
We've topped the 200 mark. In terms of languages, we've inched our way over 100. Some will say 101, some say 103 different languages. My wife says I have a tough enough time with English. They're trying to speak in foreign language. It's quite an accomplishment. Again, we thank God for blessing us, churches for supporting us, and our own workers for being, in some cases, stubborn, but diligent in their belief that we're making a difference by putting this. Now, time to think. We're going to think by watching. Watch what I'm doing. If this were a sporting event, I would have the producers rewind it and let's watch what I just did. What did I do? I held a Bible in my hand, I opened it up, and I read some verses. My late wife, rest her soul, and I for many years lived in Frankfurt. Went to a Methodist church in Frankfurt for 27 years. I had a speaker one time, a Gideon speaker, that had been a member of our church, but his work had taken him to a different part of central Kentucky, but he came back as a Gideon speaker. He did something that I'll never forget. He just stopped, and he said, if I sent you home right now and told you to get out every Bible you can find and take a count, how many Bibles do you have in your house? He also kind of made a prior arrangement with 3 or 4 people, and he called them by name. He said, how many you got? One lady said she had 7. I think the fewest anybody mentioned was 3. We take it for granted.
Yes. Yes.
We've been around Bibles our whole lives. It is estimated today, the 22nd day of September, 2019, there are likely 75 to 80 million people on this planet that have never done what I just did. And what you do all the time. They've never held God's Word in their hands. And the Gideons were trying to do something about that. Now, it's not easy, because a lot of those high pockets of population are in faraway places, that are difficult to get to. They are inside the boundaries of countries where the leaders have made it very clear we do not want Christian-based literature within the walls of our country, or the boundaries of our country. So we've got our work cut out for us. We are very fortunate in our Grant County camp. We have a gentleman who, with his wife, children, and I think the last couple of years, have even taken a grandchildren. And they go with a Christian-based organization to India. They go not where you might think. They go to what they call the high country, the mountains of India. Surprisingly, the gentleman's name is Gale. I looked at Brother Gale one time when he said this. And I asked him, he said, run that down me again. India is a Hindu nation. Several years ago, as long as it's up in the mountains, where things are not developed, people still live in isolated villages, they decided that if a Christian-based group wanted to buy some property and build a church, that's fine. Of course, they made some money off it. But there are Christian-based churches in the mountains of India. That's where Brother Gale and his family go every year. He takes the Bibles shipped. He goes out and distributes testaments. The things that we have, the things that make our lives easier. There are lights on in here this morning. If it were to rain, we're inside. If it's winter, we can turn on the heat. The people that Brother Gale and his family deal with have nothing. They take boatloads of pictures. And they develop it, and they present it. Usually it's at our March Gideon's meeting. They show slides of the churches in the mountains of India. Now, in the mountains of India, if you believe in Jesus as your Lord and Savior, if you have accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior, they don't refer to you as a Christian. They refer to you as a believer. There's a growing number of believers in the mountains. And they showed us pictures of a church service. Again, you don't have to think. It would look nothing like this. It might be as big as maybe half of the sanctuary. Concrete walls. The windows, there are openings for the windows, but there's no glass. They do hang a heavy fabric there during the rainy season and try to keep the rain out. They got some pictures of a church service. They have no pews. They sit on the floor. And they are packed in there so tightly, a fire marshal around here would have to fit. And at these windows, the people who didn't get there in time to squeeze in to the space inside the building, they'll be lined up outside every window, squeezing in, trying to hear the Word of God. That's how spiritually hungry these folks are. Love to hear his story, because they're making inroads into getting people to accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. Now, before I get back to the 10 miles, I forgot the 10 miles. We still got 10 miles to go. We still got about 10 minutes. We might make that. Our mission hasn't changed. We've had to adjust it a little bit as the times have changed. Those three guys in Wisconsin, looking back, I feel certain, had no idea what Gideons would turn into. to expand and become what we have become and be beyond their wildest imagination. But again, thanks to God and His blessings, congregations, and hard work, it's working. It is working. But we still got a lot to do. As a congregation, what can you do to help Gideons get scriptures like these? I also have the military we give out when soldiers are about to be deployed, and then the auxiliary quite often will share the Testament, the blue one. This, by the way, I jokingly say it's our bestseller. We distribute more of these around the world than any other testament. There is a story in a rather civilized part of Africa. Gideons were allowed to go into a school, and they passed out Bibles. The principal of the school said, we've got too many people, too many kids to get this done before lunch. So we divided the school into, we'll take this half of the school, we'll come through, give them the Bibles, and then after we have lunch, we'll call the other side up. When the 4 Gideons who were there finished up before lunch, they decided to walk down to the restaurant and get something to eat before they started the afternoon shift. And as they were walking out, they saw sheets of paper on the floor. You know what those sheets of paper were? Kids who didn't get the Bible wanted to read about Jesus so much they got their friends to tear out a couple of pages and give to them so they could read about Jesus. Again, an example of how spiritually starving people are. What can you do? First thing we ask of any congregation, and Brother Ron's already mentioned it, keep us in your prayers.
Yes.
Pray every day that Gideons will somehow find a way to get into those countries and get the Bibles into the hands of those who so desperately need, who have never done that. They've never held the Bible. The second thing that congregations can do, if you know someone in your family, in this congregation, in your community, that you think would make a good Gideon, let Brother Ron know. Brother Ron can then get with the Clark County Gideon president. We're always looking for more help. Third, now I do the third one a little different than what some Gideon speakers do. As you know, we take financial contributions. And I will say this, and I'll remind you, in the history of Gideons, and it will never change, any funds that come from congregations may only be used for 2 things, and 2 things only. That is printing of testaments and shipping of testaments. Nobody gets their salary increased from that. Nothing. Just printing and shipping. So at the end of the service, I'll be standing there in the doorway. If your heart is leading you to do so, we will kindly accept your donations. Okay, we've still got 10 miles to go. Suppose I told you 15 minutes ago, go home and change into some comfortable clothes and some good walking shoes. We're going to walk 10 miles. Now, surprisingly, I tell people, most of us could do that. We wouldn't break any records, but we could probably do it. Now, before you go home and get your clothes, before you agree to go, I need to tell you some other stuff. The 10 miles is not going to be laps around the track. It's not going to be 10 miles on a nice course where they put down mulch and make it nice and cushiony. It's going to be through the mountains of northern India, where a road is really no more than where the people who live there have taken an axe and chopped down a couple of trees and made a path just wide enough for a jeep a four-wheel drive vehicle to get through. They call that a road. This area that we're going to be walking is also very close to a campground that was set up by Hindu renegade soldiers who escaped from the Indian Army into the mountains, and they set up a camp. They get their food by robbing people and stealing from them. So as we walk through the 10 miles, we might encounter somebody who might attack us for our food, our money, whatever we might have. Now, the third one is the reason I go walk that 10 miles. Where they cut down the trees, it allows the sun to shine through on the ground. Now, I didn't know this about India. I guess I did, but didn't realize it. India is home to a lot of snakes, particularly cobras. Cobras love to come out from down into the hills and lay in the sun. So you might be walking along and all of a sudden you step on a cobra. That's why I'm not going. But Brother Gale, it's been about 2 years ago, and he came back, he said, Jim, you got to hear this. A little girl, when she was about 5, her family realized the danger that the young people were in if they stayed in this village. The village was constantly being raided by these soldiers. They feared for their daughter. Her dad had a sister who did not live in the mountains. She chose to leave the mountains and had come down into the more civilized area. So he talked to the village leader and said, I need the Jeep. I'm going to take my daughter, and she's going to stay with my sister and her husband. So they took her. It was a sad time, but they left her there. Stayed about a year and a half with her uncle, aunt, cousins. And finally, the renegades, the raids seemed to stop. And they decided, okay, I think it's safe, we can bring her back. So they brought her back. When she came back, what did she bring with her? A Bible. Oh, it gets better. Village consisted of about 200, maybe 250 people. What her parents didn't realize, when she was living with the uncle and the aunt and cousins, they sent her to school. She could read. You want to know how many others in that village could read? 0. Nobody in the village could read, except this little girl. The village leaders, it dawned on them, you can read? Yeah, I can read. So they asked her father, with your permission, anytime we have to go to the compound, which was kind of like a headquarters, to pick up supplies, food, whatever it might be, we want her to go with us. She can read the orders, she can make sure we're getting a fair deal. She would sit outside her hut and read from the Bible. And others in the village began to notice, just about every evening, she'd be sitting out there reading. A couple of her friends, about the same age, got worried. They said, what are you reading? She said, I'm reading the Bible, reading about Jesus. And they noticed, in the time when she was reading, she just seemed to be different. She seemed to have a glow about her. So one of her closest friends asked her, would you read that? Would you read that to me? So she began to read out loud. And soon it wasn't just her friend, it was others gathering around, listening as she was reading the Word of God. There were a few, Gail says maybe 2 or 3, that he knew came from that village, who he would meet at the church. They become believers. Now, the little girl, on one of her trips into the compound, saw a Gideon. And she said, "What's this?" He said, that's the Bible. It's not the little, just the New Testament version of the whole Bible. And she said, "I want one of those." And one of the teachers there at the compound said, "Man, you've already got one. I've seen you with this one." She said, "No, I want this one." And the Gideon said, "I've got some extras. I don't mind giving it to you, but why? Why do you want it?" Then she told him, "I'm going to take this book back to my village, and I'm going to teach those people how to read so they can learn about Jesus by reading." And Gail says he's still seeing people from that village at these churches who took that little girl's Bible and read it. Because there are people around this world who need to know about Jesus. All right. 2 years ago, I believe it was 2 years ago, I had a speaking engagement in March. They always tell us from Gideons, before you do your presentations, go to the website, make sure your numbers are up to date. Anything that might have changed. It was March. So when I got on the internet, a lot of stuff about St. Patrick's Day. Internet is full of stuff. And I thought, hey, why not? So I opened one of them up, had a listing of Irish writings. And my wife was sitting there, and I shared a couple of them. And I told her, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take those. I think they would be great to put in my Gideon presentations as a way to end it." She said, "Okay." So I've done that for a couple of years. So I'll only end with this. This one is an Irish proverb. "May your troubles be less, your blessings be more, and nothing but happiness come through your door." That's an Irish proverb. Now, the Irish prayer that I found, a lot of people have seen it. It's not totally new. I just happen to like it. "May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be ever at your back. May the sun shine warmly on your face, and the rain fall soft on your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of His hand." On behalf of the Clark County Camp, Grant County Camp, and Gideons around the world, God bless you. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you, Brother Thomas, for giving this good presentation. Again, we want to remind you that he will be back in the back, that if you feel the Lord leading you to give to the Gideons, you know where the money goes, and it goes to a good cause. Let us stand. John, will you dismiss us?
Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we give thanks we can congregate here this morning, dear Lord. We give thanks for the Gideons, because they do your will, your good. In your name we pray.